by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jen Cruz, your host tonight, and this is the Journey Radio Show. Hey, we're showing up as the She-Squatchers because we're talking about our favorite subject again tonight. That's Bigfoot. I've got my trusty teammate on the line with me. Hey, Jenna Grover, are you there?
I am here, and I'm so excited to be here. We have got a great guest. Thank you, everybody, for stopping in and listening, because this is going to be an awesome show.
Yes, absolutely. Let me tell you a little bit about our guest tonight. We've got Matthew Heines coming to us from the Pacific Northwest. He is a teacher and author, a veteran of the 82nd Airborne Division, and a husband, as well as the founder and host of Encounters USA. So he's going to come to us and share with us some Bigfoot information and some other cases of high strangeness tonight. So without any further delay, let's bring him on. Hey, Matthew, are you there?
Oh, I am definitely here, Jen. Hello there, Jenna. How are you?
Hello, I'm fabulous. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for having me on the show. This is the epitome of my life. This is the highlight right here, to be on the She-Squatchers. I've been a big fan for a while, so thanks for having me on the show. This is really awesome, and I hope we can have a really nice discussion and people can hear some information they might have not have heard before.
Awesome. Well, can you tell us a little bit about Encounters USA?
Oh, yes, I would love to, Jen, and thanks for asking. I know that you guys are interested in not just Bigfoot, but sometimes you deal in the paranormal. Am I right on that?
Yes, that's correct.
So I kind of do the same thing with mine, but what I try to do is I try to incorporate Bigfoot, aliens, and Dogman. So, and you're probably saying, wait a minute, what's the correlation, and are you crazy? What about the conflict you're going to have with the alien and Bigfoot and Dogman communities, trying to blend them all three together? And we'll talk about that a little later, but it is my belief they're related. And so that is why we do aliens, Bigfoot, and Dogman.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear all about it. How about you tell me a little bit about how you got into Bigfoot in the first place? Because that's always a fun story for me.
Well, I imagine that I'm a little bit older than you are. And so I was a kid in the 70s, and I saw Bigfoot on Star Wars, the first one. And people kind of, I hear people about that are my age or a little bit older talking about the popular culture, but I heard somebody talking on your show about the Leonard Nimoy In Search Of episode with Bigfoot. We all saw that, and then suddenly here's Bigfoot on Star Wars. So from the beginning, I of course was interested in it, but also being from the Pacific Northwest, it was pretty accepted that there's somewhere. I grew up on the West Coast. So I didn't think we had any in our area, but I did think there were some over in the Cascades. And anyway, it wasn't that big of a deal with me, but I will tell you that my neighbor at Washington State University, where I graduated from college, was Grover Krantz.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool.
And I'll tell you right now, if I knew now what I knew then, I thought, oh, he's the Bigfoot guy. He's the anthropologist that teaches about Bigfoot, and I didn't know he was such a big deal. And back then, of course, he wasn't. He was really fringe. But if I'd known then what I know now, I probably would have went over and tried to get invited to a few Bigfoot festivals.
Oh yeah, that would have been fun. Were there actually festivals back then?
No, not unless it was like a tar and feathering deal where they were putting you out of town on a rail or something. No, it wasn't that bad, but it was just something that wasn't that popular. Now, I came back from we had talked or we haven't talked, I guess, about my books yet, but I lived in the Middle East for a while, and actually about almost 15 years. And
Oh,
I came
wow.
back to the US, and it was like I came to another place, and suddenly I have people like Rich Germeau, who lives over in the or Germeau, I keep saying that wrong, who lives over by Hood Canal, and he's got all these Bigfoot encounters. There's people disappearing out of the Olympic Mountains, and there's all these Bigfoot sightings. And I'm going, what's going on here? I've never heard anything about this. So I just said to my wife, I've always been interested in this stuff. And I was doing a different podcast. I said, I think this is the way to go because I like this stuff. This stuff is really cool. And I've got some really interesting ideas about them that probably we're going to talk about.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, I'm so excited. I've got, yeah, I know you have so much information. I'm just steaming to get it. I'm just excited to hear more. So, but where does he begin?
Well, I'll tell you, if you want to have a place to begin, I will tell you right now that when I started this podcast in, I think, April, I really didn't know like where it was going or whatever. And I didn't know that much. I knew all the popular culture stuff and I knew what I thought I knew. But there are so many things that I have learned about, like the social aspects of it. You can't say certain things to certain people, and there is a cultural gap, and some people think that Bigfoot is this, and some people think that Bigfoot is that, and if you say the wrong thing, then and I've made a point on my website. I did a blog post about, like, it's almost become a religion kind of thing, and it's not a thing you see in the UFO community, but it's almost this thing. And one thing that I thought was interesting is this idea of the, do you believe in Bigfoot? And I cannot stand that phrase because I have a book about like conspiracies and conspiracy theories, but when you say you believe in something, it's comparing it to Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or something that's not tangible and there's no credible evidence. But if you think that there is something, which I think there's a Bigfoot, I mean, I wouldn't even say that. There's so much evidence there to show that there is something out there, then that's really the argument. And it's not about belief at all. So that's one thing that I learned is in just the 6 months is that there's just this idea of it's kind of a religion, and it's really not.
Well, no, when you said when you were overseas, you saw all these differences. Are you talking about not only the grounds, the terrain? Are you talking, I mean, did you actually get to go out and investigate what, I mean, and you said you were there for quite some time too, so. Oh,
I was in the Middle East. I wasn't doing anything with Bigfoot. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, Jenna. When I came back, the culture was different. Bigfoot was in the mainstream. And I live around Seattle, and my wife and I, we love camping and we love being outdoors, and we drive around, and Bigfoot is everywhere. The big statues of Bigfoot, and I'm just going, man, oh man. And I was doing a podcast called Books in Hindsight. My last name is Heines, so I have hindsight added on, and it's supposed to be clever. So anyway,
it is.
Anything there, I can never. There, I'm getting a smile. All right. So anyway, I really didn't like doing it because it wasn't something I was interested in. But I noticed that I started talking to people about people that did books about UFOs and remote viewers and paranormal people, and I was really interested in what they had to say. So and I learned a lot from them, and that really kind of pushed me over into doing Encounters USA. And I also want to give credit to the Sasquatch Chronicles and Dogman Encounters, is it? With Vic Cundiff? Mm-hmm. But I listened to those shows and I'm just going, boy, this is so interesting. And the one thing that I wanted to do that's different is I wanted to start collecting information and keeping things that are the same, keep track of those things. And I'll give you an example. We heard of Skinwalker Ranch, and they have the blue balls, the blue lights. Well, where else have people seen those? They've seen them in Marfa. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at. A dogman, a description of a dogman at Skinwalker Ranch. Is that the same dogman you might see out in Michigan, which is near you guys, if you didn't know? So, so, but that's what I'm trying to do with my podcast, is to really just kind of to keep track, because I'm not a mystical person. I'm a very science, nuts and bolts guy. And I do believe all things that we can explain, most things now from our technology and the things we understand. So I think that we can understand what's really happening with Bigfoot and the UFOs and et cetera. And I just want to, when you asked me about getting my interest in it, my interest does not encompass just Bigfoot or aliens, but the cover up. Who's covering it up? Why are they keeping the information from us? Why is that important? Why shouldn't we think about this? Why is it important that this is not a part of our lives and our knowledge? So it's not just Bigfoot, it's really the big picture. So I try to bring a lot of that or a little bit of that into the podcast without confusing people. But I like science, and I like explaining things scientifically as much as possible.
Oh, yes. I think that's awesome. And, we have to bring it in. We have to. I mean, this is all about science. These are animals,
Well,
these are beings.
Well, that's true. And if I can just jump very quickly into the Melba Ketchum thing you guys want to talk about? Well, I talked to Robin McAfee, and Melba was, she's so destroyed, like psychologically, over what happened with that Bigfoot thing. But that's the thing that about science that people need to understand, is that she came out with this credible evidence, and people say what they want and they think what they want, and everybody has an opinion about it. But I know that science accepts what she got. And I know what happened with her results. Robin explained it very well. And I interviewed her and all that on my channel. And the thing about science is, though, as we get back to religion again, because here we have science telling us you can't look at that. And do you understand what Melba found?
With her DNA experiment?
Yeah.
In her Jena project. I would like you to tell the listeners what you're talking about, because there's some listeners who might not know who she is.
Okay, well, Melba Ketchum is a veterinarian. She's a DNA tester for animals. And when she got into this project, she was the person that in her area of Texas, if you had a police case that involved an animal, you brought that DNA to her and she tested it. And her testimony is credible in court, et cetera, et cetera. So David Paulides started bringing her samples of DNA, and they were very hush-hush about it. And so they started putting out, give us samples, we need blood, we need skin, we need hair. And so people contributed, and they went through all the hoops and everything else. And then right when they were about ready to basically publish, the Nature, which is the journal to publish if you're a scientist, they were all ready to go. And then suddenly they came out and said, the lawyers say we're not going to publish. And then here comes they released her information to the media. They said she was looking for Bigfoot. They released it to the Finding Bigfoot people. So then that was on their show, and they had a chance to chew her up. And so here's this poor little woman, and she's got the whole world. And nobody in the Bigfoot community that I see ever stood up for her. So when I have a chance, I stand up for her, because I think she's a hero, and I think that what she did is, I think someday when this gets settled out, I think they'll say for her courage and for what she found, she's probably comparable to Galileo, especially the way she was treated. So
let's talk about what she found a little bit. So She tested the mitochondrial DNA of these potential Bigfoot samples. Did she find samples that weren't Bigfoot that she thought were something else?
Well, what she found, and I want you to understand that this is from Robin and from Scott Carpenter, who also wrote a book about the study. What she found was that the mitochondrial DNA, which is present in everybody, is from a human female, and they don't know the DNA is. They don't know. It's not in the human genome, and they've got everything.
DNA.
Yeah,
The nuclear DNA that comes from
yes.
the father.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that,
No problem.
Marie Curie. Thank you. So,
Marie Curie.
so yes, so they found this out, and so I mean, where do you even go with that? So, I mean that's the story of human female DNA, and we don't know. So the only thing that I would say, because we're talking about, well, I incorporate UFOs in my stuff. Well, they abduct human women, and they're talking about being genetically manipulated. So are they building some of these things from the genes they're getting? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
So, can I ask you a question? I mean,
Yes.
what do you think Bigfoot is? I love asking this question because everybody has a different answer usually.
I think that it is something that moves in and out. I saw you talking to, I think it's Dr. Murphy. You're talking about portals.
Mm.
I think it's Ron Murphy you're talking to.
Yeah.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. I think it's that simple. I think it's just they move in and out. I think that they are made up of something that is able to cross between this reality and the next. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Did Jen? I sent you a picture on Facebook today. Did you? It was a picture that Matt Moneymaker had sent or posted. Did you happen to see that?
I saw the picture that you sent to me. I didn't know the history of it at all.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, if you look at that picture, the thing is, it looks like a ape. It could be a Bigfoot taken from a trail cam, but it doesn't have any legs. And of course, it's a blurry picture, but it doesn't have any legs. Where are its legs? I mean, it's like it's in the ground, and it's like I mean, okay. So there's another picture that was posted from Manitoba a few years ago, and it's a red Sasquatch. And it's sitting, and you see its back. Have you seen that one?
I don't know
I'm
if
not
I've
sure.
seen that one or not.
All right. Well, you can Google it. There's a Manitoba Sasquatch, and it's sitting there it's a game camera, and it's sitting there, and the game camera takes its picture, right? So my question is, in both these cases, it's a game camera. How do game cameras work? What makes them take a picture?
Movement.
Exactly. So why did these things have one picture? As far as I know, they had the one picture where they're in full frame. They're not in a picture moving into the frame. They're sitting there, right? And the one in Manitoba, it's very clear, and it's either a guy in a costume or it's real. And my point is what made that camera trigger? I mean, what triggered that camera? How did that thing get into the frame, sit there, and then I think it just showed up, and I think it showed up and moved. And when it moved, it took its picture, and because it wasn't facing the camera, it didn't know it was there. And then again, it could be a guy in a costume.
Yeah, but
They didn't share the other pictures because it was clear in the other pictures what it was.
yeah, that's true.
Did
Where
you
are
see
the
the
other
other? Did you see the other pictures?
No, but isn't it funny how they usually only show you one picture from the trail cam when you know that they probably have several?
Well, then there you go, right there. There's another challenge I have is I don't have you guys have a lot of expertise that I don't, and you've probably been doing this for longer than I have, so you'd probably even know more maybe about that once you found out what it was than I do. I talked to I cannot think of his name. He's the biggest. Anyway, I was talking to a Bigfoot researcher, and I'll have his name in a
Lauren
second.
Coleman?
Tom Cantrell.
Oh.
Tom Cantrell. And he just, I told him about that. And he said, well, he's like, well, you don't know the whole story. But he didn't want to tell me the whole story. So I don't know, but he was just, well, you don't really know the whole story. So
I love hearing the whole story. And I
okay,
know that
but
we talked about that before, where, on our show, we just let people tell us what they think. And, we don't necessarily, even if we don't agree, we don't necessarily disagree with people because it's their story. We weren't there.
right,
We don't know. And we want to hear their perception of what happened. And,
right,
I trust people to come on and tell us the real story that in their perception of things. And I think that just being open to hearing things without
yeah,
being immediately judgmental is
yeah,
really important for people
yeah,
to share that information. So, we put a disclaimer on everything. We don't necessarily support the claims made, but, we like to provide the area where people can come and share them freely.
yeah. Well, don't support any claims I make. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay.
All right. Well,
I
can
will
I just,
support. I will support you on the Melba Ketchum thing, though. When I will publicly say that because of all the different DNA samples that come back from different people that have sent it in, and how many times has it come back saying, "Well, it must have been contaminated because it came back human with the
Mhm.
human connection." Well, that totally makes sense if the mitochondrial DNA, which is the easiest kind of DNA to test, that's normally what they test when they test DNA is mitochondrial. For the listeners who don't know anything about mitochondrial DNA, it is passed identically from mother to child, mother to child, mother to child. It never changes. If you were to test your Chihuahua puppy, mitochondrial DNA, it's going to come up as a gray wolf. It looks like a gray wolf under mitochondrial DNA because it never changes. So it could have been a human mother a long, 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 long time ago, but it's still going to come up as a human mother. And wouldn't that then it explain why so many of the samples come back? Well, it must have been contaminated because it's showing a human. So to me, it starts to fit together like a puzzle. It starts to fit together.
Okay, so you think that the female comes from a long time ago.
The mitochondrial DNA does not change. It stays identical from mother to child, mother to child, mother to child. It never changes. Every dog is descended from a gray wolf. If you look at their mitochondrial DNA, it says gray wolf, no matter what kind of dog it is. And that's true in humans. It's true in every species. Mitochondrial DNA never changes.
Okay, let me throw something at you then. All right, I have an idea. Do I have time for? I'm just waiting for that hook to come out. So, anyway, I have an idea that then this is from listening to podcasts and people that research and have had encounters, whatever. I think that there is a full bred. There's a big one, right? Like 12 feet. And I think the other ones, 8 to 9, are hybrids. And I think that 12 foot, the 12 to 15 footer he's a full blood. There's no human DNA in that one. But these other ones, I think that they are. And also, let me just throw in my UFO connection thing. There's a lot of what you have to think about is you don't want to think about, well, why is Bigfoot real or not? Do you believe in Bigfoot or are there aliens? But the question is, there's evidence, but why wouldn't people want you? The question is, why wouldn't people want you to believe that? Who is that going to really hurt? That you believe in an alien, an extraterrestrial race, whatever. Who does that hurt? And so the real question there is not about Bigfoot or aliens, but it's about who does it hurt that you believe in it? And so who has something to lose, and what is it they have to lose from that? What does the knowledge of an alien or a ape or whatever out there, what does that have? How would that hurt us? But that's the
And what
bigger
is your
question.
answer? What is your
Well,
answer?
I don't have all I have is I have more questions. That's really all I have, but I just have to look at, there are people that, and I've written one of my books, you can guess which one it is, but there are people out there that are thirsty for knowledge that like to keep that knowledge secret. And they control a lot of what goes on in the world, and they have a lot of pull in our government. So people that have this kind of knowledge or like this kind of knowledge and don't want to share it for some reason. And, it's not just this, it's giants, it's the red-haired culture in Latin America, it's et cetera, et cetera. And if I was to really, really get into why they don't want you to know, you'd go, that's just too crazy. That's too much. But I wrote a book about it, and if you're interested, read the book. Other than that, I'm not going to say.
What's
But-
the book called?
Darn.
It's called Deceptions of the Ages, Mormons, Freemasons, and Extraterrestrials.
Ooh,
Well,
that
so-
sounds good.
I think I know my next read. So
Well, I'd appreciate that, and I'd really like to hear what you have to say, because that's it. I mean, you can look at the deep state, you can look at anything you want that's going on in our society, and if you want to know the roots of it, you got to go back to the Templars, you got to go back to Greece and Rome and Egypt, and so
can you
it
get that
goes-
on Amazon?
you can get it Amazon, Kobo, Nook, Hindsight, anywhere you want. Thanks.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No. You can interrupt to plug my books anytime, Jenna. So anyway, that's. But I think people really need to understand that it's not so much about why is there a Bigfoot or not, but why does the government feel so important that I don't know that there is one? So I think that's a more important question.
So do you think it's the logging companies?
I think that I've seen Bigfoot on Star Wars, flying around in a spaceship. I've talked to Ron Moorhead. I've seen on that David Paulides movie about Ron talking about a spaceship, and a Bigfoot standing right next to a spaceship or a UFO.
Well,
And,
you do know that the Bionic Man had Bigfoot on there in one of the episodes.
That's my other thing. So let me give you a little bit of a chronology. Is in 1973, there's a place called Pine Ridge where the Kecksburg UFO landed in 65, right? You know the Kecksburg UFO?
Before our time.
Before our time, before your time, and only slightly, well, it's slightly during my time. All right. So Kecksburg UFO crashed, but in 1973, in almost the same place, there's a place called Pine Ridge, and it runs from Pennsylvania to Indiana, according to the thing I saw on it. So anyway, in 1973, they had all these sightings of UFOs with Bigfoot. And here's a UFO, and here's some Bigfoot walking around. These guys shot at them. The police saw them. There were all these cases of them. And in 1976, here's Bigfoot flying around with Harrison Ford, right? So what's the connection? And who has access? Who has access to these files? Okay, so when you go into talking about Spielberg, Close Encounters of the Third Kind was based on those Pine Ridge encounters, of all those UFO encounters and people chasing them and the cops. That was from Pine Ridge. So what? And these guys, Spielberg and Lucas, Freemasons, and they seem to have all this knowledge about UFOs. And when you and I talk about UFOs, we could lose our job. But they can talk about it and make $100 million. So what's the story? What's the deal with that? So anyway, it's something that, it's just more questions that I can't give you the answers to those. You have to answer those for yourself.
That is true. We all have to think about what we think it is. But personally, I think that any kind of new being, whether it's alien, Bigfoot, Dogman, or so many other things, I think that they're worried that people would get a little wild. I mean, how many people would go out there with guns and try to track them down? How many people would be wanting to save Bigfoot? You know what I mean? So, there'd be so many different groups who want to do this and that. And then you look at, okay, are they more human than animal? If they are, do they get rights? There's so much to think about.
Would they put them on reservations?
Yeah, there's all that. There's the timber companies, and don't forget the evangelical community. Because I've got people saying that Bigfoot is a Nephilim, and so Bigfoot is in the Bible, and so I'm not sure about that. So, and once you go down that road, then well, you're gonna either gain or lose a lot of people. So I don't know what your particular view on it is, but I don't think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm not of that Bigfoot Nephilim camp. So I think that there were giants, like it says, but I just I don't know about that. I don't know about a lot.
Yeah. We're going to have to go to our 2-minute break. So we're going to leave you right there and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay tuned, everybody. All right. Good job. So we're still recording on the video.
I know, but I'm sure about I've just pissed off half the people listening.
Why would you? I don't think so.
Well, these guys
that's
are
fine.
all right. Well, we can talk about that, about the different camps, I guess. So it's going okay?
Yeah, it's going good. We're still recording the video.
I think my answers are still too long though. Is that all right?
Oh, they're great.
You're doing good.
Okay.
Doing good.
Yeah.
And how long is this?
We have 30 more, well, less than 30 more minutes. We stop at 59 after the hour so they can switch over to the next live show.
Okay. So, and I'm getting paid by the hour, right? It's not a...
Right. Yeah, I don't know who's paying you, but good luck on that one.
So does Jena know that I could potentially be your chauffeur out in Ocean Shores out on the West Coast?
Yes.
Have we mentioned? Oh, you haven't mentioned anything?
Oh, yeah, she's told us,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
here's what. And I can't forget to say my joke, so don't let me forget. So Anyway, it's a doozy. Anyway, so here's the deal, Jena. Make your choice. We have a car and we have a 4-wheel drive truck. So
which will not fit us all. It will not.
And I'll be quiet, Jen. You can't spoil
I'll
it.
ride in the back.
Huh? Okay. Well, that's what I'm.
Hang on. What was that sound?
Ten. And roll.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show. And hey, we're the She-Squatchers. Won't you check out our website at SheSquatchers.com? Right there at the top of the page, you're going to find our link to Facebook. Please come over and like and follow us there because that's where we post all of our up-to-date goings-on in the daily moment. And you can see what we're up to. And hey, we're also uploading some of our shows here on the video to our YouTube channel after the fact. So check out our YouTube channel at She-Squatchers Official. And hey, we're going to be heading out to Washington State here in just like 2 weeks from today, I think. We're heading to Washington State for the Sasquatch Summit. So we're really super excited about that. Tonight we're talking with Matthew Heines, who lives in Washington. And so we're hoping for a little bit of insight on their Washington Bigfoot because we've never been there before. And we are super excited to go learn about some Washington Bigfoot, how it might be different from our Minnesota nice Bigfoot up here. So let's bring Matthew back onto the show. Hey, Matthew, are you there?
Well, I certainly am, Jen. Thanks for having me, and nice to see you again, and nice to see you, Jena, one more time.
Oh, thanks. Ditto.
All right. So can I, just finish our last thought that we were talking about before we left? Because I don't want half of your listeners to start leaving nasty comments or just turning off the thing. But one of the things that I found in my discovery of the Bigfoot UFO and Dogman question is that people do have certain beliefs, and people think that Bigfoot is part of the Nephilim mentioned in the Bible, and I certainly do not want to say that that's not true. I don't know. All I'm saying is that I like to look at more of scientific evidence and like DNA and stuff like that. So if that is what you believe in, then that is fantastic. The Bible is wonderful, and we're all Christians, so there's no argument about the Bible and whether or not it's true. So I just want to make sure people understand that I'm just not of the camp that believes that Bigfoot is of the Nephilim.
I know that people have talked about potentially Bigfoot being the same thing as the giants in the Bible, and I don't believe that they are, because the giants had 2 rows of teeth, and they weren't described as big hairy beasts. They were just giant men with 2 rows of teeth and 6 fingers and 6 toes, right? So that doesn't describe Bigfoot at all to me. And they've been finding graves of those for years and years and years, and I've never heard a story about Bigfoot wearing clothing. Have you?
Exactly. Well, they come ready with a ready ensemble. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's
ensemble.
The right
of course, it's ensemble, darling.
Or
you
ensemble. In the South, it's ensemble, like bedroom suit. So, all right. So, anyway, let's move on to any other questions, Jen? I didn't. I'm sorry. Let me. I'm sorry. Let me. I didn't mean to put you throw that back and put you on the spot. So, I would like to. I would like to continue to talk a little bit about some of the culture that I found in doing Encounters USA. And the other culture that I have found is the Dogman. And Jen, we talked a little bit. I'm trying to get it changed over to Wolfen. Wasn't real successful last October, but there's next year. So Jen, I don't know if you know about this, but I'm spearheading a movement. Dogman should be Wolfen. So look into it. But anyway, my point in all this is that I think the Dogman, and I know this is a Bigfoot show, but I think the Dogman or Wolfen is a result of human behavior. And I heard Ron Murphy talking about portals, and I think that the more rotten and evil we become and do things to each other, I think the more portals open up. And I think that more that these people are practicing the black magic that they're doing in popular culture and seems to be the thing now. I think that they're opening up a lot of things for evil or something to come out of another place, and where it's coming from is something we can talk about. But I believe that, as they said on the Skinwalker Ranch, the Earth is getting thinner, and I think we're getting connected to some other worlds that maybe we don't want to be connected to.
Yeah,
So,
no, I'm still here. I was just going to say there's so many different things that could be happening. I'm so glad you brought it up. But, there are so many different views. But continue.
Well, all I want to say is that there don't seem to be fewer encounters. There seem just to be more and more, especially, like with this Dogman creature. And, what exactly is this thing? And I don't want to get off into a big discussion about Dogman, but the Bigfoot is the same thing. There's getting to be more and more encounters. But in that case, that is definitely a result of, when you come to Washington, I'm sorry you won't be able to see the disaster, the environmental disaster they've created here. But this place is so overpopulated. There are so many people. It's just filth. It's trash everywhere. And it was just so pristine when I grew up. It was such a great place. But they've had all these people come here that have no respect for it, that don't care, and it's trashed. And so these people are just pushing back into the mountains with their urban sprawl, and so they're pushing back into where the wildlife is, and of course they're stepping on Bigfoot's turf. So of course we're getting more and more sightings and encounters, etc. So also I'm sorry, Jen, you asked me about the temperance of Bigfoot compared to yours. Well, I think ours is very shy, but we need to talk a little bit about the 411 issue, and I don't know if you want to jump off onto that one yet.
That's up to you. If you're ready to talk about it, let's talk about it. Please explain to the listeners what that means, the 411.
Well, the 411 issue is David Paulides, who is an ex-policeman, and he writes these books about people that have disappeared mostly in the national park, and they all have the same traits in their disappearances. They tend to be losing their shoes, items of clothing. They're either found miles and miles from where they disappeared with no way to have gotten there, or their remains are found years later in places where people have searched and searched again. So these people just seem to be disappearing. And so that's the David Paulides aspect. In the Olympic Mountains, there have been 5 disappearances that I've done. I did a podcast on the 5 disappearances in the Olympics since the 1980s. So, and before that, I don't recall any. And so I just wonder if these Bigfoot have moved into there because they've been chased. Because when I was growing up, I mean, my friends, everybody that I knew had knew people in the woods, loggers, etc. Nobody saw Bigfoot. Nobody heard of Bigfoot. And Tom Cantrell was the first person that I talked to that said, "Oh, I was working over in the woods," and he worked with my actual stepdad. He's the first person I ever talked to that said, "I saw Bigfoot over there." So now when you're a logger and you're carrying around a chainsaw, you're probably not going to hear a lot or see a lot other than the things that are trying to fall on you. So I don't know about that. But anyway, there seem to have been a lot more encounters and sightings of Bigfoot since the 80s. And that correlates also with the massive increase in visitors to the park and the overpopulation.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yep.
Definitely.
And it also, I think it's a reflection of our, when these things go bad, it's a reflection of our disregard for the land. And I cannot harp on that enough. I mean, I know that Jen, you're Native American, and I know you guys respect the land, but I love it. And it just tears me apart to see what they've done to this place. I mean, we should be able to preserve some of it. And if I had my say, I'd say everybody's got to go out of this place. You can't live here because this has to be just pristine. So anyway.
I hear you. It's really too bad when you see the things that happen to the natural areas.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what natural areas look like anymore. They've never seen them. So
yeah. Well, I don't know where you're coming from, but I mean, I don't know that much about your area. But when you see what we have here, and when you see like the Olympic National Park, how big it is, and the mountains that are in it, and we're going to take a drive up the whole river, so you're going to see a lot of, if nothing else, you're going to see a lot of rain. But hopefully, we'll get a nice day, and you're going to see stuff that you'll never forget.
How exciting!
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Washington.
There are going to be some rules for the car, though. I don't know if I should set those down right now. There is one thing. I don't want to run out of time, and I have this joke that I've just been waiting, to spring on you guys. And it's not really a joke; it's more of an observation. But with you two, because you're so beautiful, the ginger.
She's laughing already.
I'm sorry. That was very nice of you to say. Thank you.
Well, no, it's a fact. I have a beautiful wife. I am a cultivator of beauty. I know it when I see it. But the thing about you two, the Ginger Marianne debate. Mm-hmm. Well, you guys are so equal. There's just no debate. You just can't have that. There's just no way. You're just equal. You're right there. And with Tammy in the mix, then that probably just drives people crazy. You can't just pick, it's like a potato chip. You can't pick one. You got to have them all. So
Hey,
So,
it's a good time. I used to say we're a good time, but Jen said, you can't say that anymore. I said, so now I'm trying to say it's a good time.
yeah.
No, I can't wait to see you guys in person and meet you and your wife. And it really does sound like an amazing time to go down there. So
Yep.
sounds like we're gonna
Well,
have fun.
I've got a plan. I know that Jen, you guys have your style, your MO, your modus operandi of looking for Bigfoot, right? You do this feminine, you're playing the feminine card. So what I'm going to do is basically let you guys go out. I'm going to take a high point and I'm just going to film you. So if Bigfoot comes and grabs you or whatever, then I'll have that footage that I can put on YouTube, and I'll make a killing. And anyway, and I'll call 911 after I upload the video and all that, and try to get you guys some help. But that's my plan. But I'm not going to
Oh,
be actually with you.
okay.
I think your beauty is going to attract the whole herd. I think you might have like a Bigfoot concert or something.
Wow,
Might
that's
have to
awesome.
That's
might have to
hilarious.
bring some music out and you guys do a dance number.
We'll bring
Something.
some bananas, apples, throw them out to the Bigfoots. Our
Yeah.
Bigfoot,
Jenna will
like,
sing and I'll dance. How's that?
yeah. I just
Yep.
about sang right now. I was like, no,
No.
Jenna. I sucked it back in. Don't worry. I know we can't sing in this, and I'm a singer all the time. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, don't
it's
sing on
hard
the
for her
podcast.
not to sing. It's hard for
Yeah.
her not to sing. So she's doing really good. She's
Yeah.
doing really
I would like to know if somebody sees a Bigfoot, what happens if they started singing? Because I would think the Bigfoot would be attracted. Or what if you started laughing? Would the Bigfoot laugh? Would they think, well,
We're
that's
laughing all the time.
yes. Well,
We laugh all
because
the
you're
time.
naturally funny people.
Oh,
Except when
really?
I tell a joke. Yeah, except when I tell a joke, then it's like, complete silence. It's like that bar scene when the hero walks in and
Oh
everything goes,
no,
yeah.
no. We were laughing at you the entire time. This has been a great
Okay,
interview.
sure. So, okay, well, let's try this one. Knock, knock,
Who's there?
old lady.
Old lady who?
I didn't know you could yodel.
Oh, ilale,
Old lady.
olale. I am.
So,
I know how to
see,
yodel. You know.
yeah, okay. So, nothing. See, I mean,
No.
that's probably my best material right there.
I'm
So,
so sorry.
well, I'll tell you one other thing, and we're going to get off this humor thing, if that's what we call it. But I was poor growing up, really
Okay.
poor. And so you're supposed to ask me how
How
poor.
poor were you?
Oh, yes. Well, we were so poor that our house was so run down, we were actually sued by the city dump for copyright infringement. So we're pretty poor. Yep, indeed. So
that is that's
Is-
comical.
yeah, and
Yeah.
sad, comical and sad at the same time. So, all right,
Did
well,
great.
back to let's go back to Bigfoot. So, have you guys talked to Ron Moorhead yet?
We talked to him a couple years ago when we saw him in Virginia.
Have you interviewed him?
No.
You've got to interview him, because if you want to talk about who has a good grasp, he's got a book called Quantum Bigfoot.
Yes, I know.
And if he, okay. And anyway, so he's a great guy to interview. So I really am trying to link you guys up so you can interview him for this show, because I think he's just fantastic. He's a great guy. So
Oh, that's
anyway,
great.
but also, and I'll tell you very quickly, if you want to talk about the Encounters USA journey, the first person that I really interviewed was Rich Germeau, and he was an ex deputy sheriff that had Bigfoot encounters in a couple of different places. And one thing that I wanted to do was take you guys to where he had these encounters, but you'd have to be blindfolded and all that. So, like going to the Bat Cave, you can't know exactly where it is. But we're not going to be on that side of the Olympics. But he had some amazing encounters, and he showed me the places where these took place. And it's near another place where the guy who started the Olympic project had his first encounter with these Bigfoots throwing rocks at him. And so, that's just one part of the tour that unfortunately you guys won't get to see. But what I will show you is we're going to go out to Lake Ozette, and there was an encounter that happened in 1984. And this is hilarious because these school kids are out for the summer, 2 classes with their teachers, and they're out there on a project on the ocean shore looking at crabs and oysters and whatever else you do. And they see a Bigfoot, and he's washing on this creek, and he's just sitting there washing, and they go, "Hey, Bigfoot." And then this big 7-foot, 8-foot tall thing stands up, black, covered with hair. And the kids go, "Hey, teacher, it's Bigfoot, Bigfoot." And the thing looks at him and walks away. And the teacher say, no, that's not Bigfoot. That's a big black man. He's naked. They said, "Are you kidding?" They said, "Are you kidding?" And they said, and the kid said it was not. It was Bigfoot. And so all the teachers got together and told the kids that it was a naked black man, 7 foot tall, that was walking. And the kids, of course, didn't believe it for a second. But point of this is, in the same area, a guy named Jacob, last name was Jacobson, I think, or Jacobs, middle-aged guy, maybe in his 50s, just disappears in the Ozette area. Just disappears. The truck is parked there, and just went over for the day and left his truck and never seen him again. There's not very many places for him to go. So where did he go? But there's a couple of cases. These are all males, all very strong, healthy people that all end up disappearing in the Olympics, and we're gonna go see.
So he wants to take us to the place where people get abducted from to see if he can get us on film being abducted. How nice.
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought I made that clear. Now, you guys have more subscribers on your channel, so don't give me any of your high horse morality, because I need to get more subscribers, and nothing will do it like that.
Oh no.
High horse morality.
It's the terrors of social media.
I guess so. Well, between the 3 of us on our team, the going thing is that I will be the one abducted, because the other 2 can run much faster than I can.
And I've already thought that through, because when you get in my car, there's going to be gum on the floor, so you'll have gum on the bottom of your shoe, so you won't be able to run as fast. So that'll even it up, and because I'm hoping to get the big capture, because it's not so much one person disappearing. That doesn't really make news anymore, but 3 beautiful women, that's going to make me famous,
It's going to
be like the Zapruder.
It's going to be
guy.
across the world. It's going to be out in the universe.
The
She-Squatchers.
You better hope nothing really happens to us, because this is going to be online, and they'll use
exactly. What did he do?
No, nothing will happen. I know. And if it does, you will have that evidence. But either way, it's going to be a great time. I just really appreciate you offering to do it. So that's awesome.
Well, great story to tell in prison too. So sure. So.
Hope you don't.
Yes, well, and don't also we're not going to have time to get up there, but there is a prison out there, just so you know that. It's out in a place called CQ, and you know why there's a prison in CQ? Because if you escape, they're going to seek you.
Oh, brunch.
No,
who writes
no,
these?
no, I do. See, and I've got one for like every place we're going to visit. Okay.
All right. So we should bring our headphones.
You should bring a paper and a pad to write them down, or have that recorder going. Well, there's one more. There's just one more, I guess. Maybe.
Okay.
But we're going to go to a place called La Push. And you know where it got its name? It's called La Push. No, it's because that's
from Twilight.
No, it's yes, you know that. Yes. I never saw Twilight. So, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
I wish.
No, good. Thank you, Jena. Thank you. I like you already. I like you more already, more than some. Where was that? Oh, yes. La Push. La Push. La Push got its name because the French used to get their boats stuck there.
La Push?
La Push. You have to push the boat to get it.
Oh man, I gotta write you something.
Yeah, you guys are a tough crowd. I don't know. Is
sorry.
is it happy hour yet? I don't know. I'm just not getting anything here.
Are you kidding?
All
I've been
right,
laughing
so
at you this whole time.
let me check my watch. Let me see how much time we have left.
We
All
just
right,
have a
so
few minutes left.
all right. So what else do you want out of me, Jen or Jenna?
Jenna, do you have a question for him?
No, I think I was asking a lot of them. I'm just thankful that you came on here today, and I appreciate you. So thank you.
Well, you are welcome. Thank you for having me. I have one more thing, and I'm just going to throw this at you, Jenna, because you're here now, because I've already told Jen, and she probably didn't share with you. My plan is to have you guys, she's going to remote view a map, and we're going to find out where that Bigfoot is, and we are going to go to where it is. Okay? So that's the plan. Right, Jen?
Okay.
We're gonna try it. If there's Bigfoot there, we should be able to see him. Because we've been working on remote viewing Jenna and Tammy too, so they can see him too.
Great. Okay. So
yeah, it's exciting. Jen will come over with a phone and say, "What do you see?" And I'll be like, "Right there, and right there, and right there, and right there." And she'll be like, "Yep." I'm like, "Go." I'm seeing.
Oh dear, Jenna. That's not exactly how it goes, but
no.
Okay.
But I kind of did just there and there and there and there. Yeah. But I didn't say it like that, so sorry.
Right.
Well, it's not exactly like that. So I got a question. I have a question for you. On your Tennessee video, there's a night cam footage of a Bigfoot. Is that sitting at a tree or?
Okay. So
what is that thing doing?
We thought the video on our YouTube channel is called Tennessee Bigfoot Expedition. You can go watch it. It's a FLIR thermal video. It was set on black hot, so fur or hair shows up as stark white. So it looks like a stark white something in the woods. We thought at first that it was sitting, but because you couldn't really see from pelvis down, you really couldn't see it. And so we thought at first is sitting, but the next day, Matthew Delph, who was with us that night, was able to go back out there, and we weren't because we had to leave in the morning to go back to Minnesota. But Matthew Delph went back out there to check the actual location of where we were seeing it. And he said, right there, there's a drop off. And it seemed more like it was standing there on the hillside using that area as a countertop. So that's why we weren't seeing it below the waist. It was standing there and it was working on something on the ground. And because it was set on black hot, anything of body temperature is going to show up as gray or black if it doesn't have hair on it. Mm-hmm. And so the Bigfoot that we filmed looks like it's stark white, but whatever it's working with on the ground, it's working on something, is showing up as dark gray, right? So it might have been skinning something, using that as like a countertop. So at first we thought it was sitting there, but when Matthew went back and looked at the actual location, it was actually a hillside, and he felt that it was standing there using that as a countertop.
So the hill is in front of that tree. Because it looks like it's leaning against a tree.
Right. So the tree was behind him. Yeah. Okay.
It's very hard to see, and it definitely looks weird. And it's white because it has hair. That's why it's white.
Yeah, because the setting on the thermal camera, it was a thermal camera. It was on black hot, so it shows hair as stark white, and bare skin shows up as dark gray or black.
Wow. Amazing.
So, and that is our cue that we're coming to the end of the show. Can you please give us a website where people can find you?
Yeah, come to and see us at encountersusa.com, and we are on YouTube and all of your favorite podcast channels.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Matthew. We're going to see you in 2 weeks when we're going to Washington State. She-Squatchers are going to be in the house. So, hey, we're looking forward to meeting everybody there at the Sasquatch Summit. Come out and see us. And please tune in next week where we have Darby Orcutt is coming to us to talk about Bigfoot again. So, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.